we look at the last generation, they followed a lot of the recipe and they did a lot of the things that they said they were supposed to do and look lucrative and look, right, but where did they leave them, ultimately? Larry Sanders, and I would say I'm a young entrepreneur. I grew up with my sister and my mother. I moved around a little bit as a child. I would say I was a really passionate kid. I got into art at a young age, so I started to draw a lot. That led me to want to be an oceanographer. I don't really understand how, but I wanted to do that for a large portion of my life. I was in and out of shelters with my mom and my sister, so that just put me in a space where I needed to understand the world around me, so I was thankful for art. Art was like my crutch, so art never disappeared. It just was always there throughout my whole life. I started to play basketball when I got later in life, like 17. I went to VCU because it was like 16th in the country at that time for his art program. But because my schedule was so hectic with basketball, I couldn't even be in the art program. So I wasn't doing a lot of art. So I was putting a lot of tattoos on my body. So it was kind of my way of getting it out, so. Got drafted a couple years later in the NBA. I just had a son. Yeah, it was a lot going on. Yeah, the league was what it was, and I didn't have a very personable coach at the time with Scott Skiles, so he was very regimented, like very militant. It was a lot to adjust to, but Scott made me into a defensive animal. I wasn't there and present to kind of tell my story, and so they just imagined, anything possible could happen. And, they felt that it was their place to pass that judgment. I think when they understood the different factors involved, as far as like, the anxiety and depression and these human emotions and things we go through as humans, they were able to relate, and there was no separation and disconnect that they thought was there. It just doesn't exist. To understand weed and marijuana and what it does, I guess it's the abuse of it is what scares, people who are in that position. And, they need you to be up and motivated and have energy. And as we see these athletes, older athletes, and they intake these different drugs and they deal with these side effects, and, guys are saying, nah, like I don't want to do that. Like find me a different alternative, or I got to find one myself, and if that's what it takes for guys to like stand up and say, I'm responsible for my health, and this is the choice I'm going to make, that's the choice. That's what needs to happen. Well, I've done a lot. I haven't had a chance to rest since I retired. I managed some artists. I've started my fashion, my clothing line. I manage a photographer. I've started my album now, on my body of work. I've been able to produce for some good names, and write some music. I see longevity, like to invest your time in something in a career that you are going to do for 50 years just makes a little bit more sense, because no matter what you do as an athlete, you're going to be doing something else for the majority of your life. You want to be your hero, that's how my aim is. It's like, your hero shouldn't really exist. It should be like who you want to be.